Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. I'm excited. I have my new friend, Nicole, with me. Nicole, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. So I'm Nicole Alos. I'm an executive coach, a leadership advisor, and work at that intersection of founder and executive support, as well as sort of human insight inspired AI tools. Basically, my life's work has turned out to provide the tools and resources to help people achieve their goals. So that's turned into a collection of a lot of different things, most recently leveraging AI and a lot of leadership principles to support leaders through a new product called Socratyc Sidekick. So
I love it. So let's talk about how your tool became a reality, because I think I'm a big fan of anything Socratic. So tell us about how that came to be.
sure. So over the past 7 years, my background is in executive sales and customer success leadership. And in that role, it was let's build and scale teams. Let's make sure that they're all saying the same thing. They have the same messaging, a lot of same. And what I realized in starting my company, Socratyc, about 7 years ago, is there's this huge opportunity to double down on authenticity. So authenticity as a leader, a teammate, a salesperson, really getting to know yourself so that the conversations can feel more comfortable. So I started out with things like everything disc, 5 behaviors, situational leadership as a foundation. And what I realized, especially recently working with some venture-backed founders and some C-level executives, there's this willingness when they learn a new framework or they learn a new concept that will help them achieve, like, to overcome maybe this challenging conversation or this big important moment. There's excitement and willingness, but something falls off between that conversation and the in real life conversation. So for some people, it's I thought I knew it until I was there and I didn't know it that well, or I was nervous, or whatever that means. So I was really searching for different, like, some sort of tool that's going to support that knowing doing gap. So I found a tool called Udily that is, and it was really focused on presentation skills, so preparing people for TED Talks and things like that. And I thought, okay, this tool's amazing. Why not layer in the things that I'm talking to leaders about and teams about? So late last year, I built this tool and was really focused on what are those high stakes, high value conversations that are worth logging onto a tool, interacting and doing a role play. And so that's where Socratyc Sidekick was born. So focusing on female founders, focusing on, again, like that C-level group, but also anyone who has the emotional intelligence to realize that they don't have it all figured out. They'd like some practice to make sure that they're not having these difficult conversations for the first time in real life. So
I love that. And I think, a friend of mine, he's also an executive coach, and he likens it to sports, where in sports you practice for the thing that you do. If you're going to be playing football, you practice different positions and plays.
Yeah.
And yet mentally we think, well, we can just show up and wing it. And I think it's important. I believe in the phrase iron sharpens iron. And I'm a big fan. Since AI came out, I think we can really, if we know what we're doing, sharpen our thinking with it.
Absolutely. I believe that when used correctly and when used with the right guardrails and care, that AI can really support our in real life conversations. And I'm already seeing it happen. Like, so there's some leaders that I'm working with, either I'm coaching them or I'm consulting with the team. And I can tell that they took an email they were going to send me, they put it through some sort of chat, and what came through to me was a lot stronger than it would have been, a year ago. And so sometimes there's that thought of, well, these aren't my real thoughts. But I think for some people, it's being able to say, this represents more of what I mean than maybe what my initial reaction might have been. So it's fun when that happens, for sure.
Well, I'll tell you how I started, because as a neurodiverse person, I'm on the autism and the ADHD spectrum, and regular people frustrate me because they'll say one thing and do something else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, very literal. I'm like, but they said.
Mm-hmm.
And so the very first tool I ever built, I love DISC. I'm obsessed with Colby A.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized, I am a high quick start, and that annoys the heck out of the high fact finders. So I created a translator so that when somebody sent me something, I would feed it into my model, I would analyze it, I would convert it to my language, I would dissect it, and then I'd convert it back and give them a response in their language.
I love that.
And
that's awesome.
It melted friction. It was fascinating.
Yeah, it's literally like a translator. I coach neurodiverse executives, and I am neurodivergent myself, and so being able to I love that. It's literally sounds like a translator, right? So that's great. Like, okay, what this person means is
well, I'll tell you, one of my other guests, he's a former ex-Googler. He created an app. It's a co-parenting app. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. His name's Saul Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, the parents who are co-parenting, obviously they're separated or divorced.
Mm-hmm.
One parent types in their angry spew about something. It takes that out and it says, pick the kid up at 3. And so it
Awesome.
takes away the heat of it.
Yeah.
And he said it's amazing because a lot of people, they take it to their therapist and they talk through their emotions with it.
Yeah.
But it separates the factual, here's what we need to do, from you're a piece of garbage. And I love that it eases that sort of friction.
Exactly. And I think, I don't know if you've experienced this, but for those who don't know or realize that they have challenges in this area, or maybe they just don't have challenges in this area, when you talk about these tools, it's like, why? But for those of us who really need that extra support and like see value in that, which is a lot of people, I'm realizing, in that it's like communication is like the biggest gatekeeper to all the things that we want, even things that don't require communication. Like you need to be able to pitch, you need to be able to do this and that, when the other side of that doesn't mean you need to be this orator. So it's been interesting, especially with this tool, to figure out where am I playing well, and where areas that it's just not a fit. Because I'm in both of those cases, we need someone to raise their hand and say, this is a challenge of mine. And especially for a lot of founders and C-level executives to say, I'm challenged with the go-to-market conversation or having difficult conversations, like that's a big ask. So it's just figuring out, like what is something that doesn't feel personal. We can say, okay, the world is changing because of AI, or post-pandemic and everyone's virtual. So it's been interesting.
Well, it's funny because when I look at my kids, I don't believe the jobs they're going to have exist yet. And my eldest is in grade 11. He's got 1 year of high school left, and there's so much uncertainty. And so I'm teaching him communication skills, because I feel like that's the universal. If you can understand yourself and then you can understand others, you can build a bunch of bridges, and I think that's going to be a valuable skill. So let's talk about She Builds for a moment, and how did that come about? Because to me, I'm fascinated, and if I can support women in tech, I am all in favor as an ally. I love opening doors and connecting dots.
Well, first of all, you were so helpful in that whole process and sharing. For those of you who are not aware, there was I sent out a big survey to women founders about what they're struggling with, and some factors that are part of their lives. So I appreciate you sending that out to people that you know as well. But so for those of you who are unfamiliar, Lovable has this program called She Builds, and the focus is because there's such a small percentage of builders on the Lovable platform that are women. Elena had their head of growth came up with this idea of, let's do this build-a-thon for women. Everyone sends in their ideas that they have for B2B, B2C, and then social impact. And then we'll choose a certain amount, give them unlimited Lovable credits, and we'll see what they've built. And I had been following that for a couple years, not really even using Lovable, but most recently have needed Lovable to be able to build my website and do all the things without spending tens of thousands of dollars. And so I think just maybe being a little bit overconfident in my abilities, I was like, I built this web page, this one-page web page, and there's some animation on it. So I'm just going to apply. And so 210 of us, I think, were accepted. And we had, a couple weeks ago, we had 48 hours to build our idea, which was really, really incredible. But on the scale of really strong technical expertise and I definitely started out more on the not, but I've like slightly moved over a little bit thanks to a group of women that I've connected with through this experience. So
I love that. And I think one of the things, you have a system brain, whether you would use that term or not, because I think you see the patterns. And honestly, I think that's where neurodiverse people excel, is we see the patterns and we can connect seemingly random things.
yeah.
What I realized was that if you can build a system, you can document, here's how we do something. You've got, 80% of a software plan.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know what the outcomes are, well, you've got the other 20%. You can, the coding, and again, I see coding as both an art form and a raw science. AI can create decent code. It takes a certain person to create beautiful code, but I think you're looking for a prototype, not the finished consumer grade product. Is that fair?
Some of the women in the group that I'm in were able to ship to, obviously they were very low privacy need. Like, there's to get it to the point where somebody is really ready to use it and pay for it, that needs another level, but a lot of working products as well. And I would agree. I think especially, there are two skills that I think are really important when you think about building with AI and this no code environment. I think the first is being able to really visualize the outcome. And that's just how I operate. Like, no, this is what it's going to look like. And I'm not going to stop until I get there. Is something that I've seen in a lot of the women, at least in the She Builds community. And then the other piece is being a really effective delegator. So I do a lot of work with situational leadership and, how to communicate and how to QA, when to delegate, when to do it yourself. And so I feel like that skill is really important too, because it's not the same, but there's a lot of the same competencies required, I think, for that whole process.
Well, it's funny because I'm seeing people with good communication skills, and my wife is actually an English major, which got a lot of abuse over the years from people laughing at her. But now all of a sudden, it's your ability to understand and communicate what your understanding is, I
Yeah,
think is making a huge difference.
I definitely agree. It's I don't know, it's a theme for a lot of the things we were even talking about today, like what will persist and what will fall off as a founder, as a leader, as a, I don't know, as a person, like and I think one thing, it's like the interrelational piece, the relationships, and then communication is might be all we have. So I think those who are excelling there are in a great spot, and those who are struggling there, now might be a really great time to focus and learn a little bit and be a little bit open in that spot.
I love it. And, I could talk all day about your sidekick, because to me, it's good to have, and again, I want to say it's got to be properly trained. And I feel a lot of people sit down at, their keyboard and they start typing in and, oh, it says I'm brilliant. Okay, well, I'm good. I can quit now. And it's like, no.
Yeah, no.
It's designed to affirm your biases. Think about that for just a second.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and if you think about how many high value or high stakes conversations people are leaving up to conversations with Claude or Chat. Nothing against Claude or Chat, because there are some really great use cases. But if you're relying on that for an investor conversation, or, how do I approach my board? Like, I've seen clients do that, and it just makes me so nervous that, okay, this is a spot where that elevates to the place where we should get a human involved. But obviously that's not scalable. So that's kind of where the product came from. Is like, can we provide the guardrails? Can we provide a lot of detail about what good looks like in a quick way, so you can get a score and see, here's the sentence, here's it reframed in a different way that might be a little bit better. So yeah, can be a little risky for sure. So
Well, I'll share, Nicole. So I am autistic, and apparently my default setting, I call it candid. I've been told it's more caustic, because if you ask me something, I'll tell you. Now, I've learned that most people, when they say, give me the blunt truth, they don't want the blunt truth, or more accurately, they don't want to be beaten over the head with it. So I actually created my version of a candor dial. And so there's 0, which is how I communicate with myself. And then there's a scale up to 10, where 10 is, I'm just going to blow smoke up your backside and tell you you're a genius. I've realized most people are comfortable at about 8. Any less than that, and they're like, you're mean. So it's been fascinating for me, because I'm like, that explains why people would get annoyed with me.
Yeah, and if you know DISC, right? There's conflict around or candor or feedback is it's interesting how that plays in as well with different DISC styles, where if you took a too soft approach with somebody who is a more of a D style, they might not even get it. Like, oh, you had a feedback conversation with me, or someone else might get it and they want it to be more direct, but they're not responding in the way that makes you feel warm and fuzzy that they got it. So it's it's great that you have the ability to be flexible, and that you've built a tool in that space.
It's been a fascinating journey, and it all started way back when I first started using Chat, and I was like, I like how you communicate. Could you teach me what you're doing? And then I started to dive into it, and it was because I recognized that they always reiterated back to me what I said and then gave me an answer. And this was a few iterations ago, but learning how good communication looks, I was able to get better and better at it. And I can say I've had fewer conversations where people get annoyed with me, because I don't want a sugar-coated answer. If I'm about to fall off a bridge, I want you to tell me, don't step forward. Not, oh,
Mhm.
you should watch where you're going. And I don't like sugarcoating. I don't like fluff.
Yeah.
But because I don't like it, I saw it as a sign of respect to give other people that candid feedback.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
not everybody's ready for that.
Yeah. And we often think that the way that we're being communicated with or given feedback or whatever that might be is the way. So, and that a lot of people I've experienced feel that way. And even realizing that there are more ways that you can consider, some time is enough to get people open to shifting to kind of meet the needs of others, after you overcome that first little hump too. I wonder though, how do you balance that with authenticity? That that
Yeah.
you're still being yourself, but you're also giving a nod to what that person needs.
What I realized, and okay, so first and foremost, the word authenticity has confused me my entire adult life because I am what I am, and not Popeye the Sailor Man, but sorry, but the reality is I am full on me, and I show up as me. And so I never quite understood the word. And Bob Berg with the Go Giver community, he always teaches people about being authentic. And I was confused, but then I realized not everybody is. So what I've recognized is that my authenticity is the empathy to communicate. So I'm communicating to other people the
Hmm.
way I think they need to, and the way they respond best, but I'm still communicating my message. And
Yeah,
what I realized was, a message could be a club that you hit somebody over the head with, or it could be something a little gentler. And it's the wrapping of the message, not the message, that changes, if that makes sense.
yeah, I totally agree. I don't know about you, but when I've been in situations, especially way back when as a salesperson or a sales leader, where there is the expectation to look a certain way, act a certain way, talk a certain way, that's when I would glitch. Like it would just I would just be like, it was clear I wasn't being myself and people couldn't figure
Yeah.
out why. But I would just get really flat and that's just not who I am. So people are like, what just happened to you? So I've been supporting, it's like this feeling that you're expressing what you want to express, but you're doing so in a way that makes sense, which is like, level two.
Yeah.
I think there's that feeling, and we know we're, obviously sometimes we need a mask and sometimes that's just how it is, but it's exhausting, so.
I'm going to give you a gift, Nicole. So I've been curating the rooms I'm in. I don't mask anymore. And it's batshit crazy at a time, but man, is it fun. And again, I'm not saying everybody should try this without a little bit of prep time, but if I feel myself, and I'm fascinated by masking because we tend to do it without, it's not conscious. We just adapt to the room.
Mhm.
I've now, whenever I'm in a setting, I measure my energy afterwards. And if I had to mask, I don't go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is freeing. And again, I suspect you're masking less and less over time. But just to give you a warning, there's a point where you can't mask anymore. And I don't do well in social settings. It's like, okay, I'm done. And I walk out and leave.
Well, it's interesting because and I honestly think that I don't know, just the different connections I'm making, the different, like being in this VC accelerator and She Build, like that's when I have decided I am just doing the thing and I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah.
So I think I've spent a lot of time masking. And now that I don't have a boss, I was a boss, but I was acting like I was reporting into someone for a while. Like, why am I doing this? And just keeping connections that are authentic and that have this like, they're there for the right reasons, and letting go of other relationships. I mean, I think that we are lucky in that we are, or maybe we've created this, we are in these environments that we can be completely ourselves, and that is welcomed, right? So, and I realize that there are a lot of people that are not in that spot, but why not?
Well,
Go for it.
for what it's worth, I saw your energy during the hackathon, and that was you unmasked. And I was like, I had front row seats.
On no sleep for 2 days. Yeah.
I'm sure there was a lot of caffeine, but I saw your energy, and it's gonna sound condescending, but I fell in love with your energy, because that to me is what unmasking looks like. It's raw power. And honestly, once you find that, your energy is drawn to others like that. And you will start to feel when others make you feel small versus big. And one of the reasons I started this entire podcast was to find people like me with this amazing energy and say, you know what? This is a safe place. You can be as weird as you need to be. We don't judge, because we're all weird at some level in some way. So
yeah, I love it. And that's my son's also neurodivergent. He's 10, and it's I think what switched for me is I've taken away all of the shoulds for him. Like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And I thought, why am I not doing that for myself? And then why are we not doing that for adults? Like providing that level of support too. And so I think like leading with that of like, he can be completely himself, and whatever, he's wearing the same material every single day, but he's got like a million colors and he's good.
Yeah.
But, so, and I don't think he's in the spot where, because of the environments that we put him in, he hasn't been really bullied. He hasn't been made to be smaller. And so he is 10 and he is like, he does whatever. He's a character. So I'm like, all right, you are my inspiration to just kind of do the thing and see what happens. So
I love it. And for what it's worth, I was raised the way I was raised so that my kids have me as their guide and protector. And it is so much more fun. I grew up in the 70s where, it was don't make me stop the car kind of thing. And, it was different time, but I've raised both of my boys. They are proud of who they are. They understand how different they are. And they understand, okay, at school, we have to follow the rules. But, the rule in our house is get your work done, and then you can daydream for the rest of the class. I don't care. And if the teacher calls me on it, I'm going to call them on it. So, we have a fun arrangement. And honestly, I think I'm raising two entrepreneurs because I don't want them to go through university and struggle, because they're starting, even in junior high and high school, they're starting to hate learning. And I'm like, oh my God, that's tragic.
It is. It's because there's so much out there. But if you're, that's why I was actually homeschooling my son for a while. He started this global cyber program, which really supports, like we were talking about before, really supports, thinking for yourself. And they get on these Zooms together in fourth grade. So yeah, I think there's hope for sure. But
well, for what it's worth, with video conferencing now, nerds can find each other, and it's no longer the quiet. My boys use Discord a lot, and they've got their friends, and they'll work on projects together. So
yeah, and then you're able to connect in different ways. So like when I think about this She Builds community that I've started, it's like we're connected, and we're connected through tools that allow us to translate. I didn't realize that so many people were translating and communicating throughout this, on this WhatsApp group together. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. But yeah, like technology is really providing a lot of different connections that might not have already been there. So
It's an exciting time to be a nerd. That's what I tell people.
That's true.
I
love
so
it.
many cool things.
I love it.
Yes, it's an exciting time to be a nerd. Well, I could talk to you all day, but I want to be mindful. So let's ask the hard question. If somebody wants to connect with you, wants to learn more about one of your many projects, how can they connect with you? And maybe what does it look like to work with you as an executive coach?
Yeah. So you can go to Socratyc. It's actually Socratyc Sidekick. So Socratyc, Socratyc, not good for Google searches. Socratyc Sidekick.ai is the AI tool. And then you can also go to my site, Nicole Alos, ALOS.com. And working with me as an executive coach, really goals focus. What do you need? How do you work? What are you trying to accomplish? What's worked? What hasn't worked? And, just come up with just a mishmash of things to be able to support you. I am an ICF PCC coach, but I clearly I kind of change it up a little bit and just make sure that I'm supporting the end goal as well. So
I got to share something funny with you. A friend of mine, he took a coaching program about 15 years ago, and he said, "This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life." He's neurodiverse. He's now taken the system and he's reinvented it and made it better. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't think you were done. When you took the certification, you were just starting.
Yeah, you have all the raw materials and you're like, okay. Yeah, I mean, my focus is giving people the tools that they need. And I have amassed so many certifications and tools just for that reason, because I'm like, this is what you need. All right, we're going to make it happen. And so it's been interesting to kind of follow the demand or follow the need, to give people what they need, which is super rewarding. So.
Well, for what it's worth, I love neurodiverse coaches because most coaches will say, this is the tool. I use DISC and DISC is everything. Right. Neurodiverse, we have tool belts and different tool belts for different moods. And then based on the situation, we choose the tool we need. I think that sounds very much like you, Nicole. Is that fair?
That's fair. My tool belt's really big. So I'm trying to be like, I'm not doing any more certifications before I say that, and probably
I don't believe you.
So, yeah. So, but it's not, I mean, I love learning, but it's really, it's really powerful to know that I can take this information and translate it in a way that's going to really make an impact for that person. And seeing that work is just so rewarding. So
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show with me.
Thank you. It was great to chat. I really appreciate it.